thank you all for your patience and for letting things walk all over my laptop. All right, so welcome everyone. This is the STEM student panel. The focus is on research and graduate experience. We are super excited to have folks here who are sharing their experiences, and then we are gonna have them introduce themselves here in a little bit. So I am gonna open up the floor if you all wanna go in this order and introduce yourselves. Feel free to share pronouns if you're comfortable, and if you are or were part of the AAC or any other like identity pieces that are important to you as a graduate student, examples like first generation, things like that. So I'm going to hand it off to Gabby.
Hi everybody, I am Gabby Ramirez. I am a first year PhD student here in the CMB program at CSU. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I was part of the AAC as well as the SACNAS is science community. And yep.
Hi everyone, my name is Luis Rodriguez. I am in the master's program at the computer science department here at CSU. My focus is cybersecurity, and I'm a first generation student and first in my family to get a 4-year degree and first to eventually get a master's degree.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela Elder and I'm a PhD student, first year PhD student at Vanderbilt University. I just graduated in May from CSU after spending 5 wonderful years there. And I was an AAC student the whole time, and it made a huge difference in my career, so I'm happy to be here. And then I'm also a student with disabilities and first generation also. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Susan Osara and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And this is my first year getting a Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering and Plasma Engineering here at Colorado State University. And like Michaela, I just graduated as well this past May after doing 5 years at CSU for 2 bachelor degrees. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our panelists for introducing themselves. And I also just realized I did not introduce myself. I think my cat distracted me. So hi everyone, my name is Diana. I am a retention specialist at the Academic Advancement Center. I am here to moderate this panel. So I'll be helping the panelists go through slides, and I'll talk a little bit here about the unique presentation that we're doing today with our panelists. So for Zoom engagement purposes, we are asking folks to rename themselves, to add pronouns if they're comfortable, or just include your name so that we know who's in the room and it can help with engagement. You can do that by clicking on participants at the bottom where you see the Zoom information, and then go to your name. And then when you click on more, just like on this picture, you'll be able to rename yourself and just add those pieces there. We're hoping for folks to be able to ask questions for our panelists, and I'll talk about what that'll look like, but we really welcome you to do so. We have a small group here, so I'm hoping that it can be a comfortable space for folks to feel comfortable opening up their audio or using the chat box. And I'll be moderating that for the panelists. So the goal of this presentation is to give students a glimpse into STEM graduate students' narratives and their journeys of conducting research, as well as other pieces that are a part of their experience as graduate students. This includes what their research process has looked like, how it has evolved to where it is currently, and how students' graduate school experience have contributed to this. Panelists also address why they are pursuing graduate school, how their graduate experience has been like so far, program requirements, and what they hope to achieve once they complete their program. So these are some of the things that they'll be sharing, and we welcome you all to ask any questions regarding what they share with you all today. So a little bit about this panel and how we are going to have the flow and structure. These are Ignite presentations, and this is something that Nicolette, who's a staff member here today has put together. And so shout out to her and for all the panelists working with her to put this presentation together. And the night presentation is a 5-minute presentation for each panelist, where it includes 20 slides and they auto advance every 15 seconds with storytelling pieces, right? So a lot of photos, a lot of things that are personal, a lot of things that are fun, and it just helps with engagement, especially with Zoom, right? With a lot of things being over Zoom now, hopefully it feels really engaging, and our presenters are trying this for the first time with us. And so we'll really be patient with our panelists today as they are navigating this presentation. The flow you'll see on the right-hand side is how we will be going through the panelist presentation. So we'll have one presenter, Gabby, will go first, and then we'll have time for about 2 questions just to keep track of time for Gabby. And then we'll also jump back onto another presentation, and we'll keep doing the same process. And at the end, we'll be able to open up questions for all panelists. And so we want you to know that we will have time after each panelist, but then we'll also have time for everyone to ask questions after all the presentations. Are there any questions? Please put those in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself. Give me a thumbs up if it feels like it makes sense. You're excited. Awesome. And also just know, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, we are recording this session for folks who couldn't be here. As you know, folks have busy schedules. There are a lot of folks who have been asking for recordings. So just know that although there aren't a lot of people here, we do have a lot of folks who have been asking for recordings of these sessions. So know that we will be sharing with all participants who registered, and all of the AAC participants, regardless if they registered. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and get started. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Gabby Ramirez. Gabby Ramirez is a PhD candidate in cellular and molecular biology at Colorado State University. Bachelor's of Science in she received her Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology from Colorado State University, and also received an Associate of Science from Front Range Community College. Gabby is a first generation and also was a student participant at the Academic Advancement Center. So welcome, Gabby. Are you feeling ready? Give me a thumbs up, Gabby.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yay, okay, here we go.
Thank you so much for everyone who is here, and thank you for the introduction, Diana. So I am a PhD student, and also here's my email in case you have any questions about that. I was born and raised in Michoacan, Mexico. And as a first generation student, I think that my journey through science was a little bit complicated, not only financially, but also in the academic part. I didn't have the privilege to go to my parents or family to ask for questions about my career. And honestly, I couldn't have done it with all of the communities and support that I had at CSU, both at CSU and at Front Range Community College. So it's definitely possible. And I was first introduced to research in 2016. So you can see here a picture of my mentor and myself, and also the people that I interacted with. And I just totally fell in love with research. And since then, that's when I decided to just pursue a career in research. I also had the opportunity to study abroad in Nicaragua. And that's when I became aware of dengue virus infections. So these viruses are transmitted by mosquitoes. And coming back to CSU, I just decided to look for a lab who was doing any of that research, because I wanted to impact my community by utilizing that knowledge and proposing new therapeutics for it. And then after I graduated in 2018, so you can see here, my family and myself, both at graduation and when I presented my thesis, it was about dengue viruses and new therapeutics that could be integrated. After graduation, I was very confused. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know anything about graduate school. I was a first generation. So then I pursued my dream job, which was working in the hospital. So I was working as a clinical laboratory scientist, but most of the tests and the work that I was doing, it was about getting yes or no answers. And I was getting bored of that. I think that my critical thinking skills were limited at that point. At that point, I also I had a second job. So I was working in one of the research labs here at CSU, doing mosquito work. And that's when I really had the opportunity to be asking the questions of why and how. And you can see here one of my mentors, Dr. Ushika Pereira. And this is actually the first time that I heard that I was intellectually capable of going to graduate school. So not only her, but the whole lab prepared me for the interviews and the essay questions, because I just wanted to mention that the interviews are sometimes pretty long, sometimes are 3 days, 2 days. So you really have to prepare for that. And they helped me through all of that. After all the interviews, coronavirus happened. So our lab was really focused on dengue and Zika viruses, but then our lab has to transition into antiviral testing for SARS. So we were testing disinfectants, inhalants, and compounds. And actually, one of the inhalants that I was testing just passed 2 clinical trials, phase 2 and 3. So I'm really excited about that. And I mean, we worked through really long hours. And actually, one of the CSU News wrote an article about our work here. After that, working with coronavirus and doing all of this antiviral testing, I also needed to start thinking about my PhD, what I needed to get out of it, what I wanted to do during my first year. I wanted to start thinking about my rotations and what I was interested in. So one of the questions that they're going to be asking you in your interviews is, why do you want to pursue a PhD versus a master's? And in my case, it was because I want to drive the research. I am passionate about it, and because I want to collaborate with other scientists. I also want to become the guidance and the role model for other students to contribute to the scientific field and also collaborate with more people outside, not only my university or industry, but I want to be in the edge of clinical and academic research. I'm also really interested in viruses, on tuberculosis, and bioinformatics, and that's where my rotations are going to be this year, not only this semester. So my first year of PhD basically consists of teaching, doing research, taking classes. It is definitely hard to have a balance between all of those, but I really enjoy what I'm doing. I'm really passionate about it. And yeah, this is my 5-minute presentation about my journey in science. That was magical. So let me know if you have any questions. If you don't have any time here, you can also email me. And yeah, thank you so for having me here. I'm really excited.
Thank you, Gabby. Let me go ahead and jump onto the question section. I really appreciated all the images that you shared, and so I'm just really excited to see everyone's. I want to give time for folks to ask at least 2 questions. I also encourage panelists, other panelists in the room, to share questions as well. Yeah, for engagement purposes. So feel free to mute yourself, or feel free to use the chat.
Sure.
For you, what was the most intense part of your graduate applications and process to get into school?
I think that there were 2 components. One of them was not having a great GPA, but that was supported by having experience both in the industry side and the academic side. And then the second one for my essays was talking about myself. And that's actually when my mentor came in and she reviewed my application and said, these are the things that you need to talk about. I don't know, I feel like as a first generation student, it was really hard to talk about my merits and what I've done, where I want to go. And that's where the mentors can really help you through that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Gabby, I had a question.
Yeah.
So you seemed very close to your mentor. I was just curious, when did you meet her in undergrad?
I did
Yeah.
actually it was during my last year here at CSU, and it was really funny because I was very interested on the research. I wanted to work on dengue viruses, and I emailed her about 3 times and she didn't respond. So I went to her office. I knocked on the door and say, "Hey, hi, this is Gabby. I'm really interested about research, and can you take me in?" Yeah, so I started by volunteering in that lab, and then eventually I got hired. But yeah, definitely a lot of motivation from my part and just going in and talking to her.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? And we will also have time at the end for all of our panelists. But thank you to those who asked questions. And thank you, Gabby. All right.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions for Gabby, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next panelist. So next we have Susan. Susan is in a Master of Science, is a Master of Science candidate in Mechanical Engineering, Plasma Engineering at Colorado State University, received a Bachelor's of Science in Engineering Science, Space Engineering, and Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Colorado State University. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Sorry if I kind of missed some of those pieces of like putting those together. So Susan, are you feeling ready?
I'm feeling ready.
Awesome. I'm gonna let you take it away.
Okay, well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining the panel today. It's great to have you. My name is Susan Osara and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'll be stepping through my narrative to give you some insight on how I got to where I am today. So I was born in England in 1996. I moved to Littleton, Colorado in 1999 and settled in Parker in 2001. Over the years, I developed hobbies in stand-up comedy, orchestra, dance, and theater. Some defining parts of me are that I'm a woman in STEM and I'm Middle Eastern. My mom is Indian and my dad's Iranian. However, I've spent most of my life raised in the US. My dad is a software developer and mechanical engineer, so he was a big influence on me in my decision to pursue engineering. My interests expand from franchises like Disney, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings to activities like hiking, camping, playing board games, and winning escape rooms. I've done about 15 to 20 escape rooms at this point, which isn't enough for me. In 2015, I joined CSU to obtain a BS in engineering science with a concentration in space and another in mechanical engineering. I didn't quite know what engineering entailed, but I knew I loved math and science, so I figured it would be a good place for me. Unfortunately, my first year at CSU was really tough. I didn't live in the dorms, so I felt like I was missing out. I had trouble making friends. I couldn't afford a car. I had a job where my shifts went until 1 a.m. on weekdays, and I ended up having to retake some courses over the summer because I did so poorly during the school year. So I needed to turn things around. So I sought out some internships. I joined the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, Mortarboard, as well as the first-year mentoring program. So I secured my first internship at the Colorado Waterjet Company, and I was actually the first woman hired there, which was really cool for me in their 20 years of being open. I enjoyed hands-on work and learned a lot about machine operation, but I eventually found myself wanting to do more than operate machines, so I moved on to other internships. My goal coming to CSU was to become a propulsion engineer in the aerospace industry. So during my undergrad, I was given multiple opportunities to design, build, and fire rocket motors. At this point, I've sent an item to near space and retrieved it, built 3 chemical rocket motors, one of which imploded, and 1 electric propulsion device. So as mentioned before, I obtained an internship with Colorado Waterjet Company, and then I was an intern for DITESCO, the NASA Space Grant Program, and now I'm currently an intern at Sandia National Labs. I also worked in the photovoltaic lab. So it was during my internship in 2018 with the NASA Space Grant Program where I sent a payload to near space that I found my passion is really in multidisciplinary research and development. While I still love propulsion, I want my work to cover more aspects of engineering. So cut to 2019 when I was hired by Sandia National Labs as a research and development intern in the pulse-powered arena. My internship with them is ongoing, and it was with Sandia that I was inspired to look into graduate school. They offered to hire me if I furthered my education. So by the end of my undergraduate coursework, I had pulled up my GPA, published 2 papers, and 1 internal publication with Sandia. I was nominated for the Silver Medal Award, and I won the Outstanding Engineering Science Student Award. So after I graduated this past May, I returned to CSU this autumn to begin my Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a concentration in Plasma Engineering. My research takes place in the CSU Electric Propulsion and Plasma Engineering Lab, which is also known as the CEPI Lab. My research project is inspired by my work at Sandia, where we have pulse-powered machines which can simulate extreme environments like the surface of the sun. But we have current losses because plasma is formed between the electrodes, allowing for current to flow through the plasma instead of the machine. So this plasma is formed and dissipated within 10 nanoseconds. So my research is to create a transient plasma diagnostic tool to help us understand how the plasma is forming. This can help lead us to figure out how to mitigate the problem. So to run this pulse-powered machine, you need 26 megaamps of current, which heats up the electrodes. We believe this allows heavy ions and neutrals to desorb from the electrode surfaces and create a plasma. Therefore, I need to identify these species desorbing at a fast rate. So my overall research project is to design and build a high-speed mass spectrometer, which doesn't even exist yet. So since I just started this semester, I'm using a steady state mass spec device that I'm trying to learn off of, and then I'll redesign over the years to help me reach my goal. So I wouldn't be where I am today without the help from my advisor, Dr. John Williams, my boss, Sean Simpson, and some faculty members, Anthony Marchese and Azari Allen, as well as my supportive family and friends. And I'm really looking forward to see how my research will unfold and moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico to proceed with my employment at Sandia National Labs. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll take any questions.
Perfect timing. Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your story. Please unmute yourself for any questions. Feel free to use the chat again.
Hi, Susan. I have a question for you. So you mentioned that you were the first woman to be there. What was it like to have that experience, or what are the obstacles that you had during that experience? If any?
I think overall it went really well. Even though it was all guys and just me, I think they always treated me like I wasn't any weaker than them or any less than they were, which I really appreciated. They were always very friendly and helpful if I needed it. So I didn't really run into anything there. The only reason why I knew that was because as I was being hired, the CEO told me that I would be the first woman there. And then also while working, I didn't come across any other women, but I thought it was a very cool experience, and I really enjoyed their company.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Susan? I see something in the chat. Okay, I see a question from Marianne. What recommendations would you have for finding internships?
That's a good question. I would say just look for whatever you're passionate about. Make sure that your resume and your cover letter really reflect everything that you've done. I know it can be kind of awkward talking yourself up a lot, especially if you're a humble person, but that's what they're looking for. They want to know what experience you have. So make sure that you have all of that included. And as you look around, just find the ones that really interest you so that when you go into the interviews, you know what you're talking about, and they'll really know how passionate you are. Thank you for the question.
I think I see. Let me check the chat box really quickly. Okay, yes, thank you, Marianne, for asking the question, and she is saying thank you, Susan. All right, so like I said, we'll have time again for questions for all panelists, but we'll go ahead and move on to our next panelist. Thank you, Susan. All right, next we have Michaela. Michaela is a PhD candidate. I believe it was meant to say student. Is a PhD student in quantitative and chemical biology at Vanderbilt University. Michaela received a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry and minored in Statistics from Colorado State University in 2020. Michaela identifies as first generation and has also been is an alumni from the Academic Advancement Center. So Michaela, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here you go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela, and I'm so happy to be here. As you can see, I love the AAC, and I absolutely love research. And so I'm really excited to be here to share my experience with you all. Thank you for having me. This is actually my reaction when I got the email. So I spent 5 years at Colorado State University, graduated in May with a degree in biochemistry with a minor in statistics. And I'm currently a first-year student in the quantitative and chemical biology program through Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm not where I thought I was going to be 5 years ago. Grad school was definitely not in my mix for what I thought would actually happen. So a little bit of background about me. I have some disabilities that I can pass out from time to time. And so before I started at CSU, not a lot was known about these disabilities, but there was suspected to be potentially a genetic component that it could be inherited. So that's how I ended up studying biochemistry at CSU, because I wanted to learn more about genetics and how when things go awry, that can lead to diseases like mine and others. But I still wasn't planning on going to grad school. I actually, after an undergraduate research experience in Eric Ross's lab, I decided to go to grad school. So I spent 4 years in Dr. Ross's lab being mentored by Sean Cascarina, who's been amazing. And I worked on a project that investigated the effects of mutation in proteins that have been linked to genes that have been linked to neurodegenerative diseases. And I just really enjoyed the research process and being able to be creative. And even though there's a lot of failure in research, my sense of curiosity always overrode my sense of failure. And I just had the best time working on these projects. And so in 2018, I was able to actually present my research at Murals. And Dr. Ross sent me to a conference, which was super cool. So I got to actually present my research at a conference, which I think is a little bit atypical for an undergrad. So that was pretty cool. My freshman year, I took a math class that was 3 semesters of math in one. And I absolutely love differential equations and linear algebra, and I wanted to continue to use it, but biochemists don't really use that a lot. So I declared a minor in statistics because I thought that would be a more applied way to be able to use math. But I wasn't sure how this fit in with biochemistry and what I would do with my career. So after talking to some people on campus, I actually found out about a field called computational biology, and it takes all of these different fields and puts them together to study biological processes. And so one subfield of computational biology is bioinformatics, and bioinformatics uses biochemistry, statistics, and computer science to study biological data and see what we can learn from biological data. So I got to work on this project and I loved it even more than bench work, and it still had all the exciting things for research, and it was able to be published, and it was just a really awesome experience. But computational biology has so many other subfields, and so systems biology and mathematical modeling are a bit more theoretical. And so I really wanted to learn more about that theoretical side of computational biology, which is why I applied to an interdisciplinary graduate program. And so part of my program, I get to do 4 research rotations my first year to try labs before I commit to them. So in my first rotation in a biophysics lab, I looked at the cytoskeleton and a process known as microtubule severing. And when these enzymes are mutated, they have actually been linked to disease. So we really want to understand this process. And so I built a mathematical model that was able to get similar results to data. So in the red is my simulation curve from my mathematical model, and in blue is data. And so this can be built upon by this lab to help explain the mechanism behind that process. So that's what I did in my first rotation. My second rotation, I'm studying small cell lung cancer, which is a very deadly form of cancer. And small cell lung cancer is unique because it can switch between different cell types, and that process is called plasticity. So we really want to understand how cells are able to do that because it makes them very drug resistant. So the goal of my project in my second rotation is to build a mechanistic model that can investigate how a certain pathway can potentially lead to the switching of the cell types. And so what will be next for me is I'll have 2 more rotations in the spring. And then at the end of that, I'll pick a lab, and then I'll do some mathematical modeling in biological systems, which I'm really excited about, and eventually graduate after writing a dissertation. And why I really am interested in research is I want to better understand the mechanisms of disease, follow my passions and curiosities, and I think that diversity is important in STEM, so I want to help foster inclusive research environments, and of course the learning aspect that comes with research I love. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela, for sharing your story and your journey. I want to give time for folks to ask questions. Like I said, feel free to mute yourself. Highly encouraged to do that. Or also use the chat. Cool.
So when looking like at interdisciplinary programs, like what were your steps that you took in like researching programs and other things like that?
That's such a great question, because honestly, it was so difficult because like everyone and their dog has a computational biology program these days. So it's like, how do you distinguish one from another? So for me, because I wanted to do more theoretical side of computational biology, not a lot of people do that. So I had to really find programs that type of research was happening. So I did that by talking to a couple of people on campus who do that type of research, like at CSU, who do that type of research or know about that type of research. And that was my first step, but I only applied to 4 programs, which you're supposed to apply to more than, I would recommend applying to more than that. But so for me, Vanderbilt was a place that had more than 5 labs doing what I want to do. And so that was a big piece of it. And not taking the same classes I took as an undergrad, because I have a degree in biochemistry, and a lot of the courses for computational biology in graduate school were like the same things, but your focus on graduate school is supposed to be on research. So I don't want to take intense coursework that I've already seen before. But yeah, so that was a little bit of the process. But yeah, I would say talking to people was like the most helpful thing for me.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. Eddie, is that how you pronounce?
Adi.
Eddie, thank you so much for engaging in this. Any other questions from any other folks in the room for Michaela?
I have a question, Michaela. Why did you choose Vanderbilt University?
Yeah, so part of it was that there were more people here doing what I would potentially want to be doing, so I could be mentored by more people, but I was pretty close to choosing the University of Washington. People were willing to let me do what I wanted to do there, but I didn't have any mentors there to show me how to do that. Also, the research at Vanderbilt is pretty cutting edge. Like most of the lab, like the lab that I'm currently working in, we're doing analysis on like cancer patient tumors from the cancer center. Like it's like real medical information. So it's pretty cutting edge stuff. And like the imaging techniques here, like when you were talking about the mass spec stuff, like Vanderbilt has some pretty cutting edge stuff for that here, and just the resources here are pretty insane. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Thank you, and congrats.
Thanks.
Thank you all for the questions, and thank you, Michaela, again for sharing your journey. We're going to go ahead and move on to our next panelist. Next, we have Luis. Luis is a Master of Computer Science candidate at Colorado State University, received a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and minored in Ethnic Studies at Colorado State University, graduated 2018, and is first generation student. Luis, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So I'm going to hand it off.
Cool. All right. So this is a title slide. Cool. So I'm going to be talking about my journey to graduate school and how I decided to do it, and how one little email can essentially change your life and your goals and whatnot. So a little bit about me. I was born in California, but I was raised in Colorado. I lived in Fort Collins for about 10 years or so. I'm a first generation student. And like I said, I'm a first with a 4-year degree and soon to be a first with a master's. I was born to Mexican parents. Both of them immigrated to the United States. I am the middle child of 3. I like tech, I like board games, and I like craft beer. There's some of my family right there with my 2 grandpas when they got to visit up here. And then the other thing about me is I'm a huge nerd. Like I said, I like tech, board games, and craft beer. And so that's me in the middle in a little gender bent Halloween costume that we did one year. The next thing is I love my girlfriend. My girlfriend, Morgan Bland, she has a master's in microbiology from CSU. And she's doing a lot of good in the world with that. And she's just a wonderful person who's pushed me to do, to be the best that I can be. In my undergraduate, I did computer science and I minored in ethnic studies. I was very close with the ethnic studies department. And I graduated from CSU in 2018. And I attended grad school right away after leaving, after graduating undergrad. So right now I'm working towards my MS in computer science, and it's a research project-based. It's a new plan that they did. So one of the challenges that I face is I lost my dad the summer right before my 3rd year. I couldn't focus, my grades slipped. I had no initiative, no job hunts. I want to take this moment to just, seek help if you're ever in trouble and you need to take care of yourself. And like I said, my girlfriend and my friends and my family, taking care of myself, CSU resources, all that jazz helped me get through that and kind of helped me see that I'm worth it, that I'm worth going to grad school. I got my foot in the door by sending an email to Dr. Indrakshi Ray, who invited at the end of her class students to ask her if they wanted an internship. And I was one of 2 people who sent an email to her. And within a few months, I had to get ready for this thing called Cybertruck Challenge. And this is what introduced me to the cybersecurity and ethical hacking kind of aspect to computer science. And I got an award for it my first year there. And I got a little article written for me with CSU. And there's part of my team when I went over there over the summer. This is where I discovered research, and I was asking myself, how the heck do I keep doing this for the rest of my life? Well, grad school. So I applied to the CS grad school program, and I got in right as soon as I left my undergrad program. So in grad school, just a little bit about the computer science programs, 36 credits. Like I said, it's a project research initiation plan. I just have 1 more semester left, so hopefully I continue doing cybersecurity work on there. The reason why I picked it is because it's a way to specialize, and also because of my increased cybersecurity interests. Because there are so many fields that I really enjoyed, and cybersecurity kind of holds that together. And the other reason is because I want to let my son have a good life. This is my son, Mozzie. He's actually barking in the other room right now. I don't know if you heard that. He's our little son. He's our little bud. He gets us through the hard days. But I was offered to be a member of Dr. Ray's cybersecurity research group as soon as I got into grad school. And initially I focused on heavy trucks, but then it shifted to just in general industrial system security, and then just general cyber physical systems. So I kind of moved from research to just doing security testing in general. So it kind of evolved into this genuine work experience while still doing research for Dr. Ray. Ongoing challenges, I have my fight with depression. The focus of research, just transitioning it to a project-based thing. But in the end, your advisors want you to succeed no matter what. And they will do everything they can in their power to help you out with that. Research can lead to other careers. I'm going to be working the security industry first, trying to have a bit more fun, gain a work experience. I don't have any plans for a PhD yet, since I want to just go into industry right away. But yeah, so that's a little glimpse of my experience.
Thank you so much, Luis, for sharing your story. I want to open up again for questions for Luis.
Did you find it difficult to go straight into grad school after you graduated, or is that had always been like a part of your plan, or would you have wished to like taking like a gap semester or year off?
Honestly, I think looking back, I would have wanted to do a semester off, but I think I made the right decision going straight into it because I had a undergraduate research position with my advisor, and because of that, that kind of influenced my decision to just go into it right away because I wanted to keep going. I wanted to keep working what I was working on essentially, and so that kind of motivated me to just get into it. So it was a little bit hard just because I just kind of jumped the gun and went into it. So I wasn't too familiar with the whole grad school scene. I just thought, hey, they're just slightly tougher classes. It's definitely not like that. You know, like your schedule changes, the way you work on stuff, the way your weeks go, that completely changes. Within the semester, I kind of picked up the pace and just kind of figured it out. But that was with the help of friends and my advisor, obviously.
Sweet, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Any other questions for Louise?
I have one more. Why did you decide to go into industry versus academia?
So that's a good question because I'm not completely cemented into it. There's a lot of aspects in academia that I love for research wise, rather than the private sector with cybersecurity. One thing is I know a lot of people already in industry, and my advisor pushes her students essentially two ways. It's like whatever you're working on, she'll like say, I think you should go into industry because this is, this aspect that you like and you're interested in. You should definitely do it because you're going to get the best out of this. And if it's a different thing, that she'll be like, you should definitely get a PhD because this field is much more research based and I think you'll enjoy it more. For me, I like the aspect of within cybersecurity, I like the ethical hacking. So it's like the we call it white hat hacking. So it's just like hacking at things because you were hired to do so by a person, not like doing bad things or whatever, But that's the reason why I kind of chose industry rather than academia because of the aspect that I'm interested in.
Right. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. I'm going to go ahead and jump us on to have an opportunity for folks to ask questions for all panelists. So if you thought of a question later on, this is the time to do it. Our presentation goes until 1:55. And so we have a couple of minutes since I want folks to take advantage of this time. So I'm just going to open up the floor for anyone.
Question kind of for all of you, like how has your graduate experience been affected by the pandemic, and like I know no one was expecting these challenges, but how do you think it will like make you a better graduate student further on?
So I moved to a new city while doing all of this, which has been interesting because I live alone and I live like a 10-minute walk from campus, but I haven't been to campus, which is so wild. But I think that in the pandemic, especially grad school can take a bit of a toll on your mental health a bit. And for me, the pandemic has helped me see what a priority my mental health is. So I think in that aspect of things, that will serve me well better, that I'm figuring out ways now to deal with both grad school and my mental health and have those things come together that will serve me well later in my graduate program.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bounce off of that. Mental health is super important. And for me, because of this pandemic, I actually got a lot less lazier. So it actually kind of like spotlighted the fact that wow, Luis, you're amazing at online classes. Because I never really took that whole scheme into consideration. And now, like, that everything's forced to be online and stuff like that, and being a computer science student, the transition is much easier. But just in general, I think I don't think I'm alone in that boat where, like, this got a little bit easier in the sake of my work ethic. And I think I'm coming out of it a lot a lot better than I went in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted to mention about the mental health and also prioritizing your stuff a little bit more. And also for me, I think that since I have to do rotations and some of the labs are not at full capacity right now, it's been impacted by the way I get to know the people in the lab, because eventually the purpose of the rotations is not only to learn about the research, but also the people that you're going to be spending your 5 to 6 years in there. So I think that it's a little bit more of like emailing people, what are the things that can be talked to you through email versus in person. That I think that has been really critical for me. Also, like meeting with the principal investigator and things like that. Like, what are the things that could be addressed through email versus in person? And yeah, I mean, it's really hard not to have all the labs at full capacity, as I mentioned. But yeah.
If you like working from home though, and the pandemic is still continuing and you're thinking about grad school next year, like a PhD program, and you want to be computational, some places, like I'm doing all computational rotations. So like you can work from home, which is nice in some ways, not in others.
I wanted to kind of answer that and then also answer the question that's in the chat from Marianne. But for me, the pandemic actually kind of like Luis, it made me a little bit more efficient. My lab was able to open up over the summer. And so just before my classes started up, I was able to go in and start doing my research. However, there were a lot of really strict limitations for going in and being in person again. One of them being not only 5 people can be in the lab at once. So we had to go about trying to figure out what the schedule is. So you have this very short window of when you can go in and try and do research. So before going in, I had to make sure I had everything planned out. I knew where all my equipment was going to be. And then I'd go straight in and get done everything that I could. And then I'd go out and be done with my day. So it did make me a bit more efficient, which was nice. And then for trying to pick what I wanted to do and get funding, as kind of mentioned in my presentation earlier, I got an internship with Sandia National Labs, and they said that they really liked me and offered to help fund my graduate school if that's what I decided to do. And actually in my 5-year goal plan was that after graduating from my bachelor's, I wanted to go into industry and wait until whatever company I work for offers to fund my graduate school. So it was cool that that happened a lot sooner than I thought it would. And I just decided to go into mechanical engineering because that's what I was doing in my undergrad work, and I knew I liked it and I knew it would help me at Sandia. However, there was a slight issue when the pandemic hit. My department took a $2 million budget cut. So they actually couldn't fund me after I got accepted to CSU. So I kind of scrambled to figure out what I needed to do, and the best way I could find funding in such a short amount of time was actually applying to be a GTA. And I was accepted. So now I'm a TA for one of the mechanical engineering courses I did last year. And that's been a really good way to get through at least this first year of graduate school. And then next year, hopefully funding will come through from Sandia.
I wanted to answer it too. So I got, just really quickly, because I have to leave directly at 1:55, but for funding, I got a GTA ship as well. And I TA one of my favorite classes, the system security class in the department. And you know, that's probably one of the best ways to get it, that on top of a GRA position, which is just a research assistant. Both of those are like the best ways to do it, and that's getting to know the a professor or your advisor, anyone whose research you're interested in. Definitely get in touch with them, you know, because if they have open positions, then they'll definitely offer one to you if you're competent enough for it, you know, and yeah, definitely. But I gotta leave now, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Louise. And I saw Michaela also posted the response on the chat, so thank you for doing that. I know we're running short on time, but I just want to thank everyone who is here, the panelists, participants. Thank you all for being here. A couple of things just as a reminder. Please fill out our conference evaluation once you are done with the entire conference, and that will be sent out. So right now, we're not sending it out just so that we don't have confusion about when to fill it out. We want folks to fill it out after the entire conference for your overall experience, and we'll touch on all of the presentations. But thank you to the panelists. You all are amazing. It was so awesome to hear your story. And we hope that we can use this in the as a recording for folks who couldn't be here, but we're really hoping to learn a lot from your journey. So thank you all.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
I'll stay on for a couple more minutes in case anyone needs anything. But you all are free to, like, the panelists, you all are free if you have to go. But just for any other participants who have questions about the conference. Go. Thank you all.
I just want to make sure, I guess, people know that they can email us. So I posted mine in the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, we included information in the program, including all your information. And so for anyone who we didn't gather things before we sent out the program, we're going to follow up with any missing pieces.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I'm like happy to because navigating grad school stuff as a first-gen student was like, the AAC was a lifesaver for me. Like, it was all such a nightmare though, and just in general trying to navigate it all. But
yeah, thank you for offering that up. It's
okay.
real. The connections piece is super important. So thank you for doing that.
Cool. Awesome.
Being here.
Thank you all so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And please, I'd love to do this in the future too. I'll have more to.
Of course. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.